Hello and welcome to Booking Through Life. I'm Mary, and it's been a hot minute since I've been on BookTube. I think for the last few years I have just been coming back to celebrate Jane Austen July and to share my TBR, sometimes to add a little Jane Austen content. So I'm not sure what I'm doing this year, but at least I'm documenting my TBR. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments below, to hear what you're reading, to hear if you've read any of the books that I'm going to read or have read, and see how you liked them. I'd love to hear from you. So, what is Jane Austen July? Jane Austen July is a celebration of all things Jane Austen. It was created by Katie from Books and Things, I think 9 years ago, and now currently is hosted by her, as well as Marissa from Blatantly Bookish and Claudia from SpinstersLibrary. And they have 7 prompts. They've evolved a little bit over the years, but this is what they are. So the first prompt is to read one of Jane Austen's main novels. And every year they have a read-along of one of the main novels. And this year it's Mansfield Park. And I've decided to partake in that read-along. And I'm reading the annotated version of Mansfield Park. It's annotated and edited by David M. Shapard. And I've already started it. If you didn't know this about me, I don't read as fast as many of you. I don't like to read multiple books at one time. And so I start in June. And I usually have more retellings, Jane Austen retellings on my TBR list than I can possibly read. So I like to start early so I can read as much as possible. So I've already started reading Mansfield Park, and I'm really enjoying this annotated version that has a lot of great illustrations showing different things from Jane Austen's time. Also has definitions of words that aren't as well known today as they were in Jane Austen's time. And then also it has a little history about different things and tells you a lot about the land that people owned and the parks or the big mansions that they lived in. And so it's adding a greater depth of my understanding of the novel. So I'm really enjoying it so far. And I'm looking forward to reading along with others as well. I usually get behind, so that's why I'm trying to get ahead. And I have a vacation from the 9th through the 16th to go see my grandkids, so I won't get as much reading done then as I would like. I've also, though, since I was super excited, June rolled around and I got kind of impatient for July, Jane Austen July, so I did read Northanger, Abbey, one of my favorite Jane Austens, enjoyed that, and I also watched the Felicity Jones, Carey Mulligan, and J.J. Fields adaptation of Northanger Abbey, and this is a good one. One I recommend watching. The second prompt is to read some of Jane Austen's lesser works, I guess. And that could include her juvenilia. She has 2 books, The Watsons and Sanditon, that were not finished. She also has you could read letters that she wrote to her family members. I started this book in 2022. It's Jane Austen's Catherine and Other Writings, bound up by Oxford World's Classics, and I didn't finish it. So this is just some of her juvenilia, and I hadn't read all of them, so I think I'll read some more of her juvenilia. Then the third prompt is to read a work of nonfiction about Jane Austen or her time. This book was all the rage last year, Jane Austen's Bookshelf by Rebecca Romney, and I can't remember what I read last year, but it wasn't this. And so I was heard a lot of good things about it, so decided that this was the year I was going to pick this up. I bought this a couple weeks ago and read the back of the book and decided to just, I'm like, oh, I just want to read this. And so I finished it, and it was very good. I highly recommend, if you have not read this book, to pick this up. It's good on a variety of different levels. If you're a book collector, which most of us who either are on BookTube or listen to BookTubers collect books. We love books, so it's just encouraging from a amateur book collector's point of view. It's part autobiographical. It talks about her book collecting, and she's a rare book dealer, and she talks about how she finds books and what editions she would collect, either for herself or for other people, why first editions are so important, and sometimes why maybe you don't want the first edition. Maybe there's something important that happens as they get re-edited and re-released that happens in a later edition that you might not want a first edition, you might want a sixth edition. And then she talks about, I think there's 8 different female writers from Jane Austen's time that we find that Jane Austen talks about either in her books or in her letters that were more than likely read by and on Jane Austen's shelf. And so, and then the fascinating thing about that is she doesn't just talk about those authors, but she really digs into why they didn't become canon. Why did Jane Austen's books become beloved and known, and why did these gals fall out of favor? And it's quite fascinating. And she goes in saying, you can just assume that maybe they weren't as good writers as Jane Austen, but in fact there are some other circumstances that have caused these gals to not be as well known as Jane. And so anyway, fascinating book. It's very well written, very easy to read. It's not academic, if I didn't say that already. It's just, it almost feels like you're sitting down with tea or coffee with her and she's just talking to you. So, good book. If you haven't read it, pick it up if you'd like. I shouldn't be so bossy. And then the third prompt is, oh, no, that was the third prompt. The fourth prompt is to read a modern retelling of a Jane Austen novel, or a book a historical novel set in Jane Austen's time. And so I love the retellings. This is where I usually have 6 or 7 books to read, but I only had 2. And again, another book that I couldn't wait till July to read. So Claudia Gray created this series, I guess it must be 5 years ago, because I believe this is the 5th book in the series. And it's their murder mysteries. And it's, again, the kind of the cozy mystery where they're amateur sleuths. And it's Mr. Jonathan Darcy, who is the son of Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy, the original Mr. Darcy, and then Miss Juliet Tilney, who is the daughter of Catherine and Henry Tilney. And in the first book, I believe Emma has a party and invites all of the Jane Austen characters to her party, and they're all, Claudia Gray figures out, like, in this Jane Austen world, how old would this couple be and that couple be, and would they have children? And then she sets them all in this at this party together, and there's a murder, and then Jonathan Darcy and Miss Tilney end up solving the murder, and so then they also are attracted to each other and have this love story going on. And so that carries on throughout the series. And the fatal unpleasantness at Netherfield does not disappoint. I absolutely love this, and it's going to be very difficult to wait for another year for the next one to come out. So I recommend picking that book up as well. Then the next book I want to read, I think Katie from Books and Things recommended this book. It's called This Motherless Land by Nikki May, and it is a reimagining of Mansfield Park, which you don't get a lot of those. So this is very interesting, and I'm very much looking forward to reading this. Here's the first little paragraph on the back of the book. So this is split between England and Nigeria. Two extraordinary cousins are set on vastly different paths as they come to terms with their shared family history, a masterful exploration of race, identity, and love. Doesn't that sound good? Yeah. So looking forward to that. Then, and so that's it for retellings, unless I have more time and am inspired. And so the next prompt is to read, read a book by a contemporary of Jane Austen. And this is where Rebecca Romney's book is a good one to read, because she'll talk about different books from authors of Jane Austen's time, and she gives a good recommendation. And so a couple years ago, I've got my Kindle here. I had gotten The Mysteries of Udolpho on my Kindle, and I started reading it, and I wasn't really getting along well with it. There was a lot of descriptions on landscapes, and I like an atmospheric novel, but I don't want to read hundreds of pages on landscapes. And so I put it down and would kind of just pick it up here and there. And then after I read Rebecca Romney, she kind of had the same experience. She said that she wasn't really, wasn't thrilled about the first half of the book, but if you can get through the first half, the book is really good. So I picked it up again, and I have been enjoying it quite a bit. So I'm looking forward to finishing the Mysteries of Udolpho, because it really like after like page 200 or around 200, it really starts to pick up. Emily gets to Castle Udolpho, and a lot of things start to happen. So far I can recommend it. Then the sixth prompt is to watch a direct screen adaptation, and I plan on watching this Mansfield Park adaptation. I like this one a little bit better than the Billy Piper adaptation, so I'll go with that one. I'm not as particular with adaptations. I love a good movie, so even if they kind of stray from characters, it's okay for me. I still think that's a decent one. And then I did enjoy the Sanditon series, and so I kind of like to rewatch it, because after the first season, that's the word. After the first season and Theo James left, I was a little disgruntled, and I think I didn't like the second season as much, but then the third season kind of picked up. So I kind of like to watch it again with fresh eyes, just kind of knowing what's going to happen and letting it be okay and just rolling with it. So I think I'll watch that. And then the last prompt is to watch a modern screen adaptation. And I absolutely love Lost in Austen, so I'll probably catch a little bit of that. And then I haven't seen this one in a while, and I love this. I love the actors in this adaptation. And so it's Death Comes to Pemberley. So I think that one will be fun. So I think that will be what I watch. I also started to watch Love and Friendship, which is the Lady Susan adaptation, and I started it and didn't finish it, so I might start it from the beginning again and watch it all the way through. So that's my Jane Austen July plans, and I'd love to hear what your plans are, and I hope you have a lovely Jane Austen July. Goodbye.